everybody. In this session, we will be discussing your topics under section B of your essay paper. Section A we have already discussed. I will not be getting into the details of how to write an essay, the basic structure, the format, and other things about essay paper, but I will straight away get into the discussion process. Now, the first topic or the fifth topic in your paper is muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. Now, paper B as compared to section B, as compared to section A has more philosophical topics. The topics are not direct, but they are moderate. They are not very difficult because their interpretation is not very difficult. They're easy to interpret, which means that they're doable paper. The paper overall was very easy, as we had already discussed, and obviously we are discussing the paper after it has already been conducted, so it is easier for us to analyze. I'm sure that inside the examination hall it would not have looked that easy, but if you had practiced well and if you knew your content and if you had already planned your strategy, then the paper would not have posed any difficulty as such. Okay, so the fifth topic, let's begin. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. Now, if you go by the literal definition of this quote, it means that you take for example, there is a stagnant, there's a pond with stagnant water, and if it is left undisturbed, the pond looks very clear, it looks clean. But if a stone is thrown into the pond, the sediments swirl up and they rise to the surface, making the water muddy. Okay. Similarly, another example is if you see the rivers during monsoon, the rivers carry a lot of silt and sediments with it, so the water looks muddy, the water is muddy. But as monsoon recedes and the sediment starts settling at the bottom of the riverbed, the river again, the water appears clearer again. So it simply means that there are situations and there are conflicts, there are circumstances where you have to take a back seat. You have to act with patience, and the best way to deal with them is to let them be, to not do anything about it, to not intervene. For example, if you've observed around you, when kids are out into the open or they go out of their houses, and the parents often caution their children to not run or to not be mischievous or to behave themselves because they can hurt themselves. But children being children, they fall, they get hurt, and when they get hurt, after being cautioned by their parents, the first response is to look at their parents, and they know if they don't get any sympathy because the parents are already staring at the child. So one stare is enough for a child to understand that they have already made a mistake by not listening to their parents. So they don't do anything, they don't cry, they don't talk about how badly they have hurt. They pretend to be normal, they put up an act of being brave. So this is the muddy situation in their life. So over here, muddy, the muddy water means a situation, and leaving it alone is a response. This topic is not only a metaphor, but it also highlights the human psychology. If we are angry, when we are angry, the first instinct is to react impulsively. We get impulsive. If somebody is, for example, there is a road rage, and if somebody hurls an abuse at you, the first response is to give it back to them. You don't simply drive it because they are provocative. Some provocative statements. So provocative statements provoke you to reciprocate in a with similar intensity. But you should know that this is not the situation where you have to act with anger or out of impulse. and the best way out is to keep moving, right? So this is also an underlying human, basic human behavior for us to act impulsively. Sometimes in certain situations we need to be impulsive, we have to act, but there are also situations where you do not have to act. So you can write this essay, you can explore the dimensions where non-intervention is important, the examples where the people have proved that by not reacting has solved the solution or given them a better solution. There are also examples where you have to talk about how intervention is important but nothing has been done, and thirdly where intervention is absolutely important. Okay, so there are three basic dimensions, the core of the essay that will form the core of your essay. Now first is, let's first discuss that how non-intervention has helped solve a problem. Now if you remember your history, then in 1922 Mahatma Gandhi was convicted of sedition, right? But before him, in 1908, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, he was also convicted of sedition in 1908. Now, the two great leaders of the Indian freedom struggle, both of them were convicted for the similar offense. But their approach to the trial was very, very different. It was poles apart. While Bal Gangadhar Tilak, he questioned the legitimacy of the law, and uh, he was against the punishment that was given to him. He said this is unfair. As a citizen, as a journalist, I have to write about the government. But when it came to Mahatma Gandhi, 14 years later, he pleaded guilty. He said that yes, okay, I have written against the government. It is an offense. I agree. Punish me. I accept. But he also said that affection cannot be manufactured or regulated by law. So, by doing this, he he established his moral superiority over the unjust British system, and it also had a very humongous impact on the people of India because they realized how unjust the British system was. So it brought the people together and they fought for the Indian independence. So you see that by your response can alter your situation. Even the judges who uh, passed this judgment against Gandhi were on his side. They empathized with him and they wished him that he would be released very soon. So this is how you have to manage that. This is how you can give the historical example. Then the second example is the difference between moderates and extremists, which became apparent after the partition of Bengal in 1905, ultimately leading to the Surat split in 1907. Now, they were in this muddy water. This was a muddy water situation where the two groups or the two ideology people belonging to two different ideologies were leading two different paths. They had actually come against each other instead of fighting together. The British took advantage of this difference, and in the meanwhile, Morley-Minto Act was passed, the Indian Councils Act of 1909, which introduced separate electorates and sowed the seed of communalism. So, if you are not responding, the first example was how your response can alter your situation, and the second response is how your unresponsiveness can aggravate a situation, or it can make it, the situation can go worse because of your unresponse. Okay. Now, if I have to talk about how, non-intervention has helped, then I can give you the example that India-Pakistan relations. Now, India had always adopted a very fierce policy towards Pakistan every time they attacked us, and there was a counter attack. But in 2019, when Pakistan launched the Pulwama attack, where 40 paramilitary soldiers were killed, India did not respond immediately. India waited with patience, and India strategized. It planned its attack without letting anybody know what it is going to do. So Pakistan thought that India is not going to do anything. India is unresponsive. But India carried out surgical strikes 10 days later, and killing the terrorist, hitting the terrorist base in Pakistan, and it shook Pakistan. So this is also a response of that is very patient in nature. Now again, India tried it again. The similar response was tried again after the Pahalgam attack, but India came under fire for launching an attack on another country by entering their borders and their territory. What India could have done was that India had already suspended the Indus Water Treaty, which was enough a response. It was a patient response. It was a good response, and India should have waited for the other countries of the world to take its side. But after it launched the attack in Pakistan became the victim, and given that India is in such deep waters in terms of your international relations with America, playing another its own game, and China playing its own game, so India was left alone. So this is also one muddy situation. Then, if I talk about scientific discovery, then sometimes what happens is that not all scientific discoveries can result in better human health or in general welfare of the people. Now, in 2010, the government had almost approved the commercial cultivation of BT brinjal, but being cautious of the public sentiments and the inappropriate biosafety rules laid out by Monsanto and Mako, the Maharashtra hybrid seeds, Mako, which was uh, making this BT, which had helped, which had collaborated with Monsanto to produce this BT brinjal, to come up with this BT brinjal. So the biosafety rules were inappropriate. So what happened was that the government decided that it is going to declare a moratorium because the public was not very happy with it. So there, when when it approaches, when you have a situation like this where you know that the public sentiments are going to be hurt, and it can also damage your reputation, it is better that you take a decision that favors people. So the government declared moratorium, and BT brinjal was not cultivated for reasons that it is going to disturb the native species, the genetic diversity also. So, but if you compare it with the farmers law that were introduced few years ago, which led to farmers protest, the government's over intervention, the government did not feel necessary to discuss it with the farmers, so they erupted in protest. The three laws were ultimately repealed, and nothing was done except that it created a lot of instability in the country, and it disrupted the routine life, and it also damaged public property. So these were examples of how intervention and over intervention has caused damage, and sometimes it has also not caused damage. Now, There are also uh, again another example that if I give you, that where intervention is important, but nobody is doing anything about it. For example, the Israel-Palestine conflict. Now, Israel-Palestine conflict, the Hamas launched an attack on Israel, and Israel retaliated by almost uh, killing everybody in Gaza, by creating a famine-like situation in Gaza, by uh, sweeping the Palestinian population out of Gaza. Now, it committed genocide. Uh, on the contrary, on the contrary, when USA bombed Japan in 1945, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, then Japan decided not to retaliate, and Japan decided to rebuild itself, thereby becoming the uh, most economically advanced country in Asia. So this is how the parallels can be drawn, that on one hand a country is this country decides to intervene, to act out of impulse, and to give it immediately back, and on the other hand there is a country which sits down patiently and lets bygone be bygones and moves on. So today in America and Japan share a good diplomatic relation. They're each other's greatest trading partners. Japan is the most advanced country. Japan is also the most respected country in the world. So this is how these are all the examples that you can write. Now coming to the topic, now coming to examples where this is what we have discussed: Israel, Iran, and the parallels with Japan and USA in 1945. Now, if I come to the point where intervention is important, where you know that you cannot leave a situation as it is. Situations like poverty, unemployment, sustainable development, now you know that India has a target of net zero by 2070. But how are we going to achieve that target? How are we going to indulge? How are we going to ensure that sustainable development takes place and we leave enough for the future generations? By doing our own bit. So over here, intervention is important. We have seen how natural disasters are creating a wreaking havoc in the country. There are floods in Uttarakhand, there are floods in Punjab, flash floods, cloudbursts, and there is loss of life, there is loss of property. So what is being done about it? Everybody knows that the Himalayan ecosystem is too fragile, but still there are no strict environmental impact assessments done. Still the whatever report comes out in the report, the recommendations of these reports is not taken into consideration. Haphazard development, rampant construction on the riverbed, on the riverbeds, uh, illegal occupation of the riverbeds. So all of these have what? They have destructed the fragile ecosystem, and over here, this situation is equivalent to a muddy water situation, which cannot be left undisturbed. The government has to intervene in such situation. Now, similarly, poverty and unemployment, jobs are not going to get created on their own. You can't sit down and think that okay, one day job will be created. You have to create jobs, you have to invest in infrastructure, you have to invest in skill development. You have to bring up, the government has to bring up programs and policies for the youth, for their employment. We have to use a demographic dividend. Then secondly, if there is, where else intervention is important? Now there is racism, casteism. We cannot be mute spectators in this case. Then there is a rise in dowry deaths. Though there is the anti-dowry act has been passed, and there are also instances where section 498A has been misused by the females to embroil the husband and his family, and unlawful arrests have been made. But the ultimate aim of the anti-dowry act was to stop this evil practice, but it has not been stopped. Women are still, I mean, if you see 2025 itself, that the dowry deaths have doubled. The recent Nikki Bhati case, and then another Bangalore techie killing herself. So, as even the educated girls are dying because of dowry, they're killing themselves because of dowry. So, in such situation, intervention becomes important. It is necessary. Okay. Then, if for example the students of a college now they start protesting against the management, do you think that it is you think that the management should sit and wait? The management has to intervene. You know that you cannot, if the situation is left and nothing has been done about it, it can aggravate, it can be it can exaggerate, and it can take a shape, or it can take a turn that will be detrimental not only for the reputation of the institute but also the future of the children, future of the students involved. So over here the management has to take action, and management has to do something about it, and non-intervention is not the only way out. So this is how you have to give examples. And in conclusion, of course, there has to be a synthesis. Now you've provided an argument, you've provided a counter argument that where intervention is important, when there is whenever there is the relations between two countries are concerned, diplomatic relations and international relations, it is always best to act with patience. But when there is a security threat, when you know that if you don't act, then it can cause uh, loss of life. If you don't act, it can lead to further instability. Then action becomes important, and then it is the time that you have to intervene. I hope that this was clear, that this is how you had to write your answer. Let's go to the second topic. The years teach much, which the days never know. Now, the central idea of this topic is the length of time. It simply says that maturity, responsibility, wisdom, it comes after a certain period of time. It does not come overnight. So, it is trying to say that it is the length of the time that matters, and if you think about it, then you have to understand that years, by years we mean a long term, and by day we mean a short term. So long term efforts, it is what it is talking about. We'll get into the details of the short term and how they are complementary to each other. Now if you think UPSC says that the minimum age to write the UPSC civil services exam is 21 years. And why do you think that 21 is the prescribed age and not 18? It is because at 21, At 21 years, UPSC expects the candidate to be mature and wise enough to take up the responsibility of a civil servant. At 18, a student is just out of school, no experience. The school provides a protective shield to the child. So the child is also not too responsible or too mature to handle or to understand the responsibilities and role of a civil servant. So now now what happens in the long term? Why do we say that you mature over a period of time or you learn over a period of time? What does that mean? It simply means that when you study for a longer period of time, then you also evolve as a person. You understand things better. Now there is a concept called T. Now this is horizontal learning, and this is vertical learning. Now when you are young, horizontal learning is more. By horizontal learning we mean you're just reading everything on the periphery. You don't understand the depth of the situation, or you don't understand the topic very well. But as you grow and as you experience and as you read more and you study more, you meet other people. So what happens? You gain that experience and you understand things better. Your perception changes, and that is where you learn the vertical. You that is called vertical learning or vertical reading, which is important. Maturity. What does it maturity do? It helps you evolve. You evolve over a period of time. You take time to evolve. You don't evolve overnight. There are no overnight changes. I mean, you come out of your house at 18, you leave your house at 18, you go to college. You don't change immediately. You take 3 years to change. Even a soldier undergoes a training of 3 to 4 years to get properly inducted into the Indian Army to take up the roles and responsibility of a soldier in the Indian Army. Even the IAS officers serve as probationers for the first 2 years of their life. They, in the first posting, or in the first field work, they are supposed to learn the clerical work. It is how you learn step by step. Even if you see that you don't become a CEO just you by joining you go join a corporate and you become the CEO the next day. You don't. You become a CEO in another 10 years, 20 years, 15 years. Why? Because becoming a CEO or becoming a district magistrate needs you to have needs experience. It needs wisdom. It needs you to be mature enough to take up the responsibility. So this is the main crux of your essay topic. Now, if you talk about examples over here, that the years teach much without the days never know. If you take the first example that I can take of is Ashoka. Now, Ashoka initially had he adopted an expansionist strategy. Now, historians believed that he had already expanded his empire across India, that he did not have any other thing to do. So, after the Kalinga War, he had a change of heart and he embraced Buddhism later on, and he became very peaceful and he did not expand or he did not fight any other. battle. So it is only after so many years of expansion that he understood that war has not helped anybody, and he chose to embrace Buddhism, and he chose to spread peace and harmony through Buddhism. So this is the first example. Now, if you the Indian, the second example that I can talk about is the Indian independence struggle. Indian independence struggle spanned for approximately 90 years if you think about it. The first uprising was 1857 and we won freedom in 1947. So we evolved, we changed, our strategies changed, our methods changed. So many tragedies we saw, which changed the principles, underlying principles of the freedom movement, from moderates to extremists to revolutionary to non-violence to petitions, submissions. We saw everything. So, over a period of 90 years. Okay. Even if we talk about the administration and governance, for example, after demonetization, when the government said that it promoted cashless transaction, people were skeptical of it. People were skeptical of it because they thought they had already been scammed. There were online frauds happening. There were other. They were also skeptical about how to use it. What if their information is leaked? What if their accounts are emptied? How to trust people? But today it took them time, but they have very successfully adapted themselves to using UPI, and even other countries of the world are accepting payments through UPI. So it every change, or if you want to, if you introduce a new law, if you introduce a new policy or a program, it takes time to materialize. So this is the core crux of it. Similarly, if you see that I've already talked about civil servants, that they undergo a probationary period of 2 years before they are finally permanently inducted into the Indian civil service, into the civil services. So they have to understand, they go through this long, tedious periods to prepare themselves to take the role of a civil servant. Then, if I talk about the scientific advancements, do you think that ISRO is where ISRO is today is not an overnight achievement? It took them years to be here. It took us years to become one of the most advanced space technologies in the world. We were the first country to uh, have our own to land on moon very economically, Chandrayaan 1. So it took us time to be there. Similarly, if you see that the AI that we see today, the term artificial intelligence was actually coined by John McCarthy, if I'm not wrong. John McCarthy in 1956. Look how the AI has changed so much. It was thought about in 1956. Even if you see the computers, when Charles Babbage devised the first computer, and from that it was the computer meant two rooms or one room. Today it is a very portable machine, something so necessary that you cannot work without it. Laptops, it has evolved into laptops. So all these scientific advancements, all these the good governance policy, everything needs time. But do you think that nothing happens overnight and everything takes so much of time? You take so much of time to mature. Now, we have also seen situations where people have to mature overnight. For example, COVID, in the the family dynamics changed with the sudden passing of the head of the family. With if you see The terror attacks, if you lose somebody to a terror attack, life changes overnight. If I talk about history, then life changes overnight also. Terror attacks, COVID, natural disasters, they have the capacity to change life overnight, and people mature over in a very short span of time. Now, if you talk about history, then Pearl of Harbor attack in 1941. This single attack was enough for America to join the Second World War. Then penicillin. It was an accidental discovery which has revolutionized the medical field. So these are all the examples where overnight also things change. Now, for example, if you might have read so many stories of people qualifying this exam, that how they were ridiculed, and one single instance of being ridiculed uh, evoked in them the desire to become something in life, to become a civil servant, so that they can they are so that they reach a particular position, or they achieve a particular status in society where nobody can ridicule them. It is the most, they say that it is the most powerful position in society. So this is also how people change. Your If you once you move out, sometimes if you see the example of Gautam Buddha, it took him years to get enlightened, but that path to enlightenment was what? In one single day, he saw 4 different scenes, which changed his perception of life, which forced him to leave his life of a king. So, even a day adds to the change. Even a day can change somebody. So, it is not the years that teach, but even the days. A civil servant is if a person is preparing for any exam, not just civil services, but let's say a student, if that student is studying every single day, then by the end of the year, he knows that he's going to excel in the examination. So every day counts, which means that small persistent efforts give you better and bigger results. So days and years both are complementary to each other, and they both help an individual in achieving their goals and in making their life more meaningful. So this was the second essay. Now let's go to the third one. It is best to see life as a journey, not as a destination. Now, even in 2024, a similar essay was asked, a topic which was similar on lines was asked, and it was that happiness is not the path, but the ultimate path is happiness, something like that. I don't remember it correctly, but something like this. So even today, the essay topic, this is a very reflective topic where students are expected to introspect, to reflect, and to explore dimensions. Again, various dimensions. So it is, you have to have a multilateral approach. Now, what is a journey and what is a destination? If you see it logically, journey is what? Journey is this, and destination is this. This is static, this is dynamic. I mean, for example, let's say from this Bada Bazaar road, you have to reach Agarwal Sweets. Somebody will take the main road, somebody will take this by lane, somebody will take this by lane, even somebody can take this by lane also, and somebody can take this by lane also. This remains the same. So this destination remains the same, but your journey differs, right? Now, what is life? If you see, if life is a cumulative uh, choices that you make. And how do you make cumulative choices? How do you make choices? You make choices when you are on a journey. If you are thinking, or if you over focus, if you focus too much on your destination, then you will miss out on the enriching experience throughout the journey, which may help you build your character, which will help you uh, see things differently, which will help you become a better person, or which will change your mindset towards a particular section of society or particular religion. So that is why journey is very important. So that is why it is said that life, it is best to see life as a journey and not as a destination. Now take for an example, if there is a writer, let's say Miss Arundhati Roy, she is so much in news to now these days. Miss Arundhati Roy. Now, since she has written a memoir on her mother, it means that she has reached her destination. She has reached her destination. She has written a book. But do you think that her journey ends or there is no further journey? You can't say, because human beings are continuously evolving. Their destinations are also changing. At 8, you wanted to become a pilot. At 18, you were more interested in economics. At 28, you are now thinking about literature. At 38, you will probably be attracted to other XYZ things. People are leaving their well made careers for in pursuit of what they want to do. So, destination, you cannot decide. If you are on a if you are thinking about one particular destination, it means that you are not taking advantage of the benefits that you are going to get throughout your journey. When you go on a journey, or when you are continuously when you are accepting and life as it unfolds, you are allowing experiences, you are allowing uh, new forms of experiences to make your life more enriched, to make your life much better. Now, if you there are so many people who focus too much on destination. What happens is that when you focus too much on one particular thing, if your focus is to become an IAS officer, and if, for example, God forbid, but you did not do well in your pre, you did not clear your prelims, it will mean that mental stress, more stress would mean less productivity. But imagine that it is okay if this is your destination, it is okay. But if you are enjoying this journey, which means that you are enjoying your preparation. How do you enjoy your preparation? When you are open to various ideas, you are not constricted to only studying 18 hours and then doing nothing. But you give 8 hours to studies, you give 2 hours to friends, you give 1 hour to family, you give 1 hour to your creative or in recreation activity, you are going to for a walk, you are also eating what you want to eat, what makes you happy. So you are doing all these things. You are also talking, you are socializing, not too much but little. You are your flatmates may belong to different regions of the country. when you go to college, you meet people from different regions or different backgrounds, and you take their experiences, you uh, inculcate some of their values, so you make a difference in your own life. Now, for example, if in most Indian households, if you have noticed, uh, there is a separate crockery for the maid. If you're feeding a cup of tea to your maid, there is always a different cup for her, which is very different from your rest of the set. Now, when you come and you study the conditions of the downtrodden people, you study the conditions of the lower strata of the society, you study in your history how uh, there are systematic discrimination against them. When you read about their vulnerability and the kind of exploitation they are used to, they have been put through, you understand, you develop a sensitive side to it. At 18, you were unbothered by what was happening inside your house, but after reading, after experiencing, and through them, if you read, if you look at them, if you listen to them, now after experience it, you make a change and you say that no, there will be no different crockery in my house, there will be only one set, and we are all going to have tea in similar cups. There will be no difference. You make a change, and this is a social change. So, this is why it is important that you enjoy your journey also. Now, take for example, the Indian freedom struggle again. Indian freedom struggle was the first. It was self-rule, Swaraj. Later, it was Purna Swaraj. If the leaders, or if the people fighting for your independence had simply thought about this destination, that our destination is self-rule, we want to be ruled by our own men and we have to rule ourselves, then Swaraj. But since they saw the real intentions of the British, they saw how they abandoned the people in Palestine and Israel, they saw how they have been exploiting us economically, socially. So, all these incidents and all these emotions culminated into this becoming our destination. This is our destination. So, hence, this is why we have become the greatest democracy. This is why we gave our females voting rights much before America, because in that journey, people understood the meaning of independence. They adhered to the principles that uh, are still very much embedded into our preamble, that is equality, justice, liberty, non-violence, satyagraha, the truth is the ultimate value. So, all these things culminated into India becoming a great nation after being exploited by the British. Now, do you think that if I'm emphasizing too much on the journey part, that life as a journey is more important than the destination itself, because throughout your journey you get experience, you learn so much, you change as a person, you become more sensible, you become more responsible, you become more sensitive, you become a different person, your mindset changes, everything happens. But does that mean that destination is not important? In our essays, we give an argument that totally befits this quote. Like here, all these examples, that if you become a writer, you have achieved your ultimate destination, which means that there is nothing else to do. If you become an IAS officer, then there is nothing else to do. But do you think that there is nothing else to do and your journey has ended after become once you become a civil servant? Your journey begins after, your next journey begins after you become an IAS officer. That is why we see officers either choosing to bring change, like uh, Armstrong Palm, the IAS officer from the northeast who built the road for the village, or another IAS officer who brought electricity to the house of a 70-year-old woman. Or you can also indulge in malpractices, you can indulge in corruption, you can indulge in all other illegal activities to fill your pockets. So the journey is again up to you. So achieving one particular destination or one particular goal does not end life. Life is an ever going process, it is continuous and it is continuously evolving. Which again brings me back, do you think that destination is not important? What is life without destination? If you don't have any aim in life, do you think that this life will be worth living? What are you going to do with these experiences that you gain throughout your journey, or in the process of becoming something, or in the process of making something? If you don't understand what is the meaning of life or what is the purpose, it means that you are going to travel limitlessly, you're going to travel continuously, you're not going to stay in one place. No. So destination is equally important. It gives you a purpose. Every life has a purpose, and this gives purpose, and purpose gives meaning to life. A meaningful life is always better than a life which is spent wandering aimlessly. There has to be a meaning, there has to be a purpose, and that purpose can be anything. That purpose can be to serve the society, like Mother Teresa. If the purpose can be to contribute to literature, like the writers, or the people from the entertainment industry, or for the creative people, the painters, they continuously they don't have a particular destination. They're constantly thinking, they're constantly wondering what they have to do, and in achieving that process, in process of achieving that uh, goal, they make their life more meaningful. That is how, you know, for example, Hyun Sang, he came to India only because he wanted to study about Buddhism. He wanted to understand Buddhism. But what he did, he also gained so many experiences. He wrote extensively about India. He wrote extensively about, we know Harshvardhan because of Hyun Sang. And when he went back to China, he also helped in bridging the relationship between India and China. So these are all these experiences. This is how, in pursuit of one goal, you are also making that journey. You're also gaining experience and you're gaining wisdom, and you're doing so many more things that you have never even imagined. So that is why having a purpose is very important. What are you going to do without purpose? Second, destination also keeps you motivated, or goal keeps you motivated. Now example, if I were to give you an example, you've studied throughout the year, you gave your prelims, and you did not qualify your pre-examination. For 2 months or for 3 months, you'll sit down and you'll think, what am I going to do? There is no aim. There is no purpose to life. So you feel very demotivated. And when you feel demotivated, the ultimate result is that you are taking too much stress. You are probably on the verge of, I would not say this, but I'm not trying to deviate the topic, but you have depressive thoughts. You think about future, the uncertainty of future really lingers on your mind, and you think that I am aimless, you think worthless. So that is why goal is important. As soon as the dates are announced that okay, prelims is on this date and mains is on this date, you again get that energy back, and you again you lift yourself, you lift your spirit, and you get down to studying again. So this is also how destination or goal keeps you motivated, and that is also why it is very very important in life. To reach from one place to another place, you have to have a journey. If you don't undertake this journey, how will you know? How will you take advantage of opportunities that are there? There are so many people who think that they are going to become this, but when they are traveling, they find other opportunities, and this totally alters the course of their life. So that is also one reason why destination is important, because it is only after reaching the destination you understand if you want to do this or if you don't want to do this. So in all, life is a journey, it is evolving, but your destination is equally important because it makes life meaningful. And at the end of the day, you have to accept and forgive life every day. This was all about your topic. This was slightly tricky topic because it needed a lot of reflection, and I'm sure that when you have a time frame and a limitation, it can become mentally exhausting. And given that you've already attempted section A first, so anyway, let's come to the last topic. Our last topic is contentment is natural wealth, luxury is artificial poverty. Again, reflective topic, needs reflection, that contentment is natural wealth, luxury is artificial poverty. Now, why is contentment a natural wealth? Why is it a natural wealth? Because contentment comes from within. It is uninfluenced by external sources, right? And also, contentment is liberating. When you feel content, you are liberated from the cycle of desire. So you feel free. Why is luxury and artificial poverty? Now, luxury is an artificial poverty. Why? Because A, it is influenced by external sources. मेरी उसकी दीवार मेरी दीवार से सफेद क्यों? This is why luxury is poverty. Then secondly, luxury, the definition of luxury is ever changing. Now, Maruti 800 in 1980s was a luxury. Only the elites owned it. In 1990s, even the upper middle class of that time, they started having, they started owning Maruti. Then in early 2000s also, some people had Maruti. Then other cars also came in. So Maruti kind of lost its value, but it was a very middle class thing to have Maruti. It became the symbol of a middle class. And now nobody asks for a Maruti 800 or even Alto. People want bigger cars. People are going for SUVs. People are going for sedans, no hatchbacks. So luxury is also evolving in nature. The definition of luxury is changing. And again, see, contentment and luxury are also very subjective, which means that what is luxury for me may not be luxury for you. For me, for example, luxury is reading a good book, the quietness in the quiet, to be to walk in the nature. This is luxury for me. But for some other person, luxury can be going to the mall, shopping, drinking expensive coffees, going out, traveling, vacationing, staying in expensive hotels. So it differs. Our luxuries also differ. That what is luxury for me can be very outdated for you, something very outdated for you, and what is luxury for you can be meaningless to me. Same goes with contentment. It is also subjective. I am content with my life, even though I have, for example, I have a very small house, I have a very small car, I have very limited means, but I'm content, I'm happy. There is another person who owns a bigger car, who owns two houses, who can buy anything they have multiple sources of money, but still they are not content. So it is also a state of mind. And if I come to this top, to poverty, and poverty is also relative. Poverty is what? It is a sense of deprivation. So if I like to read books and I go and I sit with people who have read more books than me, I am going to feel inferior, or I am going to feel deprived, that oh, I did not read this book, so I am going to feel intellectually poor. Similarly, if I go and sit with people who have traveled across the world and I haven't gone outside my country, I'm going to feel poor again. So poverty is not just about money. It is not the lack of money or resources, but it is also deprivation in any form. Sometimes people are deprived of a good family, even that is poverty. If you're deprived of good friends, that is also kind of poverty. So poverty is also a relative term. Now, if I talk about gender bias over here, for example, a family has a son and a daughter. The son can study in any college, anywhere in the country. But the daughter has to go to the local college because security, fear. So even this inability to make choice is also a sense of poverty or deprivation. So why is contentment a natural wealth and luxury in artificial poverty? Because A, human needs are insatiable, which means if one need is fulfilled, another need will pop up. If one, this need is fulfilled, another will pop up. So today, if you have a car, you have a car now you want to go on a vacation, you want to go on a long drive. When you go on a long drive, you want to stay in a hotel. When you stay in a hotel, you want to go and have dinner at the restaurant. When you go to the restaurant, you want to click pictures. When you click pictures, you want to post it on social media. You come to social media, you see somebody else posting better pictures, so you need a better phone, so on and so forth. So the human needs are insatiable, the desires are insatiable, it cannot be fulfilled. So in that scenario, if we are living in a culture of aggressive consumerism, and in this culture, if I feel that five uh, set of clothes are enough for me and I feel content, then I am actually wealthy, because I'm not running after uh, shopping. I'm not running after the following the trend. I am not pressured. I don't feel the pressure of following a particular trend that I need to have five types of denims or I need to have four types of shirts. I am liberated. I feel liberated and peace of mind. I have my peace of mind. That is why I'm content, and this is why I'm wealthy. Now, if you see that the health, if I talk about health, health is also a new form of wealth. Young people are dying. They're dying at 35. They're dying at 32. They go to the gym and they suddenly die. They're in this mad race of earning money, but they're not able to enjoy it. So they want to amass all the luxuries of the world without enjoying it. But I am not running after so much of wealth. I am sitting in my home. I am reading my book. I am very happy. I am also healthy because I go and I walk. I go to the gym, or I probably exercise. I do yoga. I am fit. If I'm fitter, I am content. I am more wealthy than anybody else. So even so, there is a human aspect to it. That this is why contentment is natural wealth, while luxury is artificial poverty. The second aspect of it is when I talk about sustainable development. Everybody is saying that uh, climate change is for real. Do something for climate change. Then reduce your carbon emissions. Go for renewable energy sources. Do this, do that. But we are not doing our own bit. We are shopping, not realizing uh, where do all those clothes go. We have hoarded so much of clothes, we have hoarded so much of gadgets. We don't realize where is the waste going, where is the e-waste going, what is the impact of e-waste on our health. So even loss of resources is a kind of poverty. Sustainable development also, when we are this aggressive consumer culture, is because of aggressive consumer culture. We are buying more than necessary, we are consuming more than necessary. You go to a restaurant, it has an elaborate menu, not even realizing that most of the food goes waste, most of the clothes are dumped, most of I mean, if you see the condition of Bangladesh, if you see the conditions of Vietnam, and even in India, people are working for peanuts. So this is also poverty. So this is also why luxury is creating poverty, artificial poverty. Now, if I talk about a civil servant, let's talk about civil servant, the third aspect. Now, if for a civil servant, the ultimate goal or the purpose of joining the civil services is services to the society, then he is content with the salary, content with the work, his work, and he's probably striving for better in terms of work. But if somebody is not content, and if somebody thinks that they deserve a better lifestyle, they want to serve as the civil servant because it gives them power, but sorry, they want to live a life of a corporate. So what do? They indulge in corruption. And when you indulge in corruption, still there is no satisfaction, because again human desires are insatiable. If I take an athlete, if an athlete is winning medals on merit, satisfaction. But if athlete is indulging in doping or using banned substances to improve performance, that person will never be content. No content. So contentment is a state of mind. If you achieve something on your own merit, you are content. No matter how your performance is. You failed pre, it is okay. You worked hard, you know it, good enough. But if you know that you've cheated, there is no satisfaction. Anybody who is getting selected on their merit deserves respect. But if somebody is getting selected by uh, embezzling their documents or by forging their documents and their personal details, there will be no content. There will always be fear. And this fear is what we can call poverty. So, this is where you have to understand. But can you say that luxury is not important? Can I say that luxury is not important? Then I'm very much content with my life in the jungles, and I'm living a very simple life, and two pair of clothes are enough for me. I don't want to go to parties. I don't want to drink this. I don't want to eat this. I don't want to enjoy life, other world experiences. I don't want to have them. Can I say that? No. For every country, even luxury is important, because it propels people to work hard. Therefore, there is economic development in terms of roads, in terms of your institutions, in terms of your investments. So, there is economic development because you need luxury. You need a luxurious place. You see, in Gurgaon, the prices of camellias skyrocketing. Even if Gurgaon is flooding, people want to buy camellias. They want to buy a house in camellias. Because again, what is it? It is a social symbol. So, luxury also has social mobility. It doesn't matter what caste, creed, race, religion you belong to, but if you have a luxurious car, you are using luxurious items, you can buy whatever you want to, then your position in society is secure. You will be respected. That is why luxury is important. Now, see, everything is important in life. Too much contentment will also stop your development. It will stop your growth because you are content with whatever you know. You are content with the life you are living. You don't want to change. I am happy with my one room, bedroom, kitchen. I am going to live my life there. But I have, as a human being, I have to thrive. I have to strive. I have to strive for further development, for further growth. And for that, it is important that I earn money and I spend it on luxuries also. But at the same time, overconsumption is not good. If you already have two cars, there is no need to buy a third one. A, because you don't need it, you are unnecessarily fighting for a parking space. Second, you will be adding up to the pollution of the country, so you have to also think about sustainability. And you also have to be mindful of your expenditures. Where are you spending your money? On what things are you spending on your money? If you're spending your money on clothes which are violating animal rights, which are violating human rights. For example, there is, I think, Germany had banned Kashmiri carpets because they thought that it was causing human rights violation because of human rights violation. So you have to be mindful of what you're consuming, and this self awareness can help you in becoming a better consumer. In You have to be, at any cost, you have to be more ethical, which means that you know what is right and what is wrong, which means that you do not have to get influenced by somebody else. Now, for example, there's so many people who think that having an iPhone will automatically elevate their status. Now, can you compare yourself to somebody who, if there is one person who's buying iPhone on EMIs, and there is one person who is going and buying an iPhone and then also changing every time the new iPhone launches, that person goes and buys the new iPhone. Can these two people be compared? This person is not getting affected, but this person who's buying it on EMI is actually living in poverty, and it is a self-inflicted poverty. The same money could be used on something else and something more productive. So you have to be mindful, you have to be ethical. So this is how, contentment is natural wealth and luxury is artificial poverty. I hope that the discussion was really helpful, and if anybody who wants to write an essay and wants to send it for evaluation, you are invited to do so. And evaluation is going to be free, so make sure that you're making full use of it, and don't take essay lightly. Practice your essays, think about it, learn to think out of the box, and be more innovative. I hope this session was helpful. Until we meet next, happy learning.